Farah Hannoun for MMA Junkie, and I'm joined by UFC featherweight super Sodiq Yusuff. Sadiq, how are you?
Fantastic. Can't complain.
How have you been spending your time? What have you been up to trying to stay in shape and everything?
Most of my time has just been spent running and playing video games. There's not really much that we can do outside of the gym. So it's mostly just been doing a lot of cardio stuff.
All right, cool. And before all this madness, were you in talks or anything? I know you just fought in January, but were you in talks or with the UFC about getting back in there or anything like that?
Not yet, man. I think it was kind of getting to around that time. I thought I was gonna fight towards the maybe the end of May, the beginning of June, or maybe midway through June. But the way everything kind of ended up, I don't see that happening. Hopefully, maybe I know the UFC is planning on starting again May 9th. And if that goes well, depending on how everything else falls apart, maybe we could get something going like towards the end of June, maybe July. Because right now, I'm in Maryland, so everything is shut off. They still haven't opened up the gyms back yet. They're slowly opening things in America. I think they're going to start with Atlanta first, but for now, we don't have access to training. Everything I'm kind of doing has just been on my own.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because it's a tough spot you guys are in, and it's not like you're one of the guys that was scheduled for a bout. Because there's some guys who had fights, so they're kind of already in training camp, so they're more
Yeah.
likely to want to jump in there. In your case, of course, like not having an access to gym, not being able to spar and do any of that, it would be tough, right? If they were to offer you something towards the end of May or anything like that, it would be tough to jump in there with absolutely no preparation, pretty much, right?
Yeah, so it's gonna be that's gonna be the hardest part. Like it's not necessarily a thing about showing up in shape because the cardio you can always do that on your own. But the thing is, your sparring partners and training and reaction time and stuff like that is gonna be a little bit off. So for me, it's gonna have to be based off when our individual state actually allows everybody to get back in the gym, and then we gotta weigh in the health stuff and the people that you want to have around you at the gym.
Yeah, I was gonna, I was gonna say, like, what are your thoughts just in general with events proceeding? Are you one of the guys that goes like, I just want to fight, or do you have questions? Like, how are you
Um,
approaching this all?
I'm really down the middle. I lean a little bit more towards the let them fight people because as a fighter, trust me, I know how it is. There's not many of us that are in the position to where we can just sit around half of the year and not fight. Most of us get our big paydays from the actual fights. And then if you're one of the guys that already have something scheduled, I'm sure you also scheduled a lot of payments around that. There's a lot of things that you have to pay for, and you're already expecting to have that money in your pocket. So with that said, there's no way I could ever tell them don't host the fights because as a fighter, I know what that feels like. But on the other hand, I also understand the people who are very concerned about their health. I saw a lot of people gave Khabib trash about going back to his country, but you can't. Everybody's different. It's not. There's some people where like this sickness hasn't really affected anybody close to them, so they don't respect it, but unfortunately for us, we've had people at the gym whose family members passed away from it, so it's not something that we're really playing with. So I can also understand their part. So as long as the UFC could host the fights and they do it safely, it's all good. I saw something about who was that Lehman Good that said he had the virus and he was gonna fight on the last card that got canceled. And I would imagine if he had fought on that card and got sick, it could have turned out really bad. But on the other hand, there are people who are willing to take that risk. We get punched in the face for a living, so like we're definitely willing to take the risk if it means providing a better future for ourselves.
Of course, and you make some good points about the thing where it hits closer to home for people who've had people around them that are affected. Because that's a really good point. Because it's kind of true. Like for some people, it's like we're all locked in at home and we're not really sure what's going on. We listen to the news. People are all over the world in different countries and stuff like that. So I certainly agree with you on that point. Let's revisit your last fight, win over Andre Fili, a very impressive win. When you finish a lot of fights, but it was good to log in 15 minutes, right? Did you learn more about yourself and kind of you guys do all this training and practice. It's nice to get a quick finish, but sometimes when you log in those 3 rounds, you get to know more and know more like what you need to work on and what you've done well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'll tell you the honest truth right now. No matter what your training camp goes like, there's nobody who's ever gonna complain about a quick finish. If I can have a quick finish for the rest of my career, I'll happily do that. If I can spend just 1 second in there and get out, there's no complaint on this side. But like you said, there are things that come from having 3 round fights. But that I'm definitely not looking for no 3 round fights, man. But yeah, you get to take away a lot more because that ring experience matters, because you're not going to be able to finish everybody easily, so the amount of time that you spend in that ring, it gets you prepared for the longer bouts and being able to just make wise decisions as good times.
And you say that because, funny enough, and I think I've mentioned that to you before, I've seen you fight live, and I'm in Jordan, and I'm from that region. So that was a 46-second finish for you. So I remember looking at that fight card and kind of the names to look out for. And I'm like, although you were coming off of that loss in Titan FC for the title, but I was looking at the names to look out for, and I'm like, this is a guy to look out for. And 46 seconds later, and it's all done. I'm like, right, okay, I know why I pointed at that guy. And it's been a pretty crazy ride for you since then, because you go from kind of losing that title fight to flying halfway across the world to Amman, Jordan, which I'm pretty sure was pretty random for you, right? And then
Yes.
you get that quick finish. It must be a nice validation, right? You get that quick finish, like, okay, I know what I'm about. And then the Contender Series, you have that incredible fight with Mike Davis, and who's an absolute stud. And look at you now, like in the top 15. Is it crazy, like the past 2 years, how your career has gone?
To be perfectly honest, sometimes it doesn't. I think when I was coming up, I thought it would feel crazy, but the kind of work that I've put in is the results that I have now is just a validation of the things that I've been doing before. So it doesn't feel crazy at all. I thought it would feel a lot different than it does. It just feels normal. It feels right, and that's because, like I said, I put in the work. Even when I lost to in Titan, that was just kind of like a glitch in the matrix. It was a fight that I was on my way to winning, and everybody thought I should have won. So when they offered me the opportunity to fight in Jordan, I had to jump on it because I knew the guy had a lot of push behind him. He was a SBG guy, so I knew it would get me a good spotlight. And that was because of that fight was how I was able to get on the Contender. I had to come in as a big underdog, but the people who know me and the people who are around me, I'm not a big underdog in any fight. But after that, I was able to make a good statement, and right now we're 4-0 in the UFC. It's kind of all of this that's happening is slowly is in the right direction that I thought I was gonna be in, and it's not moving any slower or any faster than I thought I'll be. I'm in a good place right now, and I'm just riding the wave.
And what's next for you? Do you have any names? You're in that position in the rankings where you're that tough guy that I don't think a lot of people are going to want to fight, especially the higher ranked guys. You know that's what I'm talking about. So are there a couple of guys that specific names that you're targeting, or guys that you'd like to fight next?
Yeah, it's kind of like you said. I'm in a tricky position to where on one, like, I just got into the top 15. On one hand, it's like I know I don't want to fight backwards, but on the other hand, I don't really care either way. As long as I'm climbing up the ranks, it's all good to me. If they give me somebody where I have to fight backwards, as long as it's kind of helping my position in that ranking, it's okay with me. It's funny. I keep getting these questions, and it is something that I know that I'm gonna have to adjust to. But my whole career, since amateur fights all the way to now, how many fights is that? Maybe 20 something fights in. I've never been the guy to pick my opponents. I've never picked an opponent ever. But now that I'm in the UFC, I get the question all the time. It's like, all right, who do you want to fight next? Who do you want to fight next? Blah blah. And I am gonna work on it, but then I have to go look at everybody that's ranked higher than me. I've always had the same schedule. I think my manager, my coach always discussed the fights, and then they just called me at home. Hey, Sodiq, hey, we're fighting this guy, blah, blah. Like, okay, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So the option has never been on my table, So, but now that I'm in the top 15, to me, as long as it's someone that makes sense, most of the people in my weight classes is all kind of the same similar fight. Outside of Ryan Hall, who's a grappler, everybody else in that top 15 is kind of the same kind of fight. It's all like MMA guys, striker, a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of stuff like that. So to me, it doesn't really matter right now. Right now, I want to get back in the gym, honestly.
I want to get back in the gym, so I can only imagine how it is for you guys. MMA in Africa, the wave. I mean, it's an incredible wave, and you're very much part of it. I was just talking to Francis Ngannou, and I asked him a question of where he thought the highest possibility for UFC Africa, which country he thought had the best chance of hosting a UFC Africa. So I'm going to ask you the same question. Which country do you?
Yeah, my best guess would be outside of the Middle East. Like, if they come straight to the Africa itself, it would be probably South Africa, because I know they host what is that, ECF? I think it's
EFC.
EFC. They host a lot of fights over there, so I feel like they kind of already have it like set up to where it'll be easy for the UFC to get in, and then they just have to find a venue. Like every time I go back to Nigeria, EFC is on like constant repeat on TV over there. So, but now that they made the deals with the UFC, I mean, I haven't been back there to watch it since they made the deal with the UFC to start showing it on TV. But before, when I used to go, it was always EFC all the time. So I'm sure it'll be easy for them to get into that same market that the EFC is already on.
And do you think, I mean, Ngannou's answer was Nigeria, and he said obviously because of we've got 2 UFC champions from there, so he said we've got to honor that, and it only makes sense. Do you think it's possible in the near future? I mean, it's a massive deal to have 2 UFC champions.
Yeah. You didn't ask me what I want to happen.
No. I know. No,
right,
I know. Yeah.
If it's based off what I want to happen, we're 100% gonna go to Nigeria. And yeah, like Francis said, it's 100% like that makes sense. Right now would be the perfect time. There's 2 Nigerian champions. It's just I think the South Africa would be the easiest way to make it in. But trust me, if they man, that would be a dream. I really hope they make that happen, man. Because yeah, this would be the perfect time. This would be the perfect time, not even just for Nigeria, just have a UFC Africa all together. You know, there's a lot of solid guys with a good position in each weight class for them to put on a whole card with just Nigerian fighters. You know, I've seen them do the same thing for the Irish people and for the people over there in the UK. So it'll be a blessing for them to do something like that. You know, and that might break like sports history. You know, I know they've had like the third in Manila and stuff like that, but to have a whole card that just stacked with African athletes, like they're actually from the country, from the continent, that would be amazing.
Yeah, and then no, I was asking you which one you felt was most likely to be able to. Of course, I know your answer is going to be Nigeria naturally. So yeah, it goes to my next question. Do you think it's feasible within maybe the next 5 years that Nigeria? Do you think Nigeria would be capable within the next 5 years? Do you think the interest is there now to make something happen?
Yeah. I don't even think we have to go to 5 years. I thought it was something that could have happened towards the end of, if all this stuff didn't happen, it was definitely something that could have happened towards the end of this year, if not the beginning of next year. Based off how all the stuff goes on with this virus, it still may be possible next year.
Nice. So I'll leave you with one last question. I appreciate your time. How soon do you think you'll be able to get back in there, realistically speaking, or ideally for you, when do you think you'll be able to get back in there?
Yeah, it's all going to be based off the actual state of Maryland and when they allow us to start getting back in the gyms. So if let's say that like magically it happened this week, we could get back in the gym this week. It would be awesome if I could get in there by end of June, beginning of July, and everything else would just be based off of that.
All right, Sodiq, I really appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, you know, I've watched you fight live, and I love it when I point at somebody and I feel like they've got potential, and then they just do it. It's a special feeling when you get to watch somebody compete live. And I know it was that one time; it was 46 seconds. It told me enough. So pretty cool to see how far you've come, and looking forward to your next one.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show.